Okay, let's go.
Hello there, Chick Chatters. We're back with the Love is Blind episode 6 recap. And they like to start these episodes off weird. So, weird camera angles. They're all in bed besides Jimmy and Chelsea. He's just at breakfast with a weird open mouth smile again, trying to feed us all some weird fake vlog or something. I don't know. But they just start pivoting from location to location. Everybody's hanging out together. Kenneth and Brittany are getting massages, and he's just like, we're gonna put this in our weekly budget. And I was like,
as a middle school principal. I thought Clay and AD were really funny in the morning too, just with their glasses on and everything. They're like, we're in the Geek Squad. They
Yep.
both just look so different. And she's like, this is the real reveal. So I thought that was cute.
They were pretty cute. They were also shown out and about before they do the cast party. They're out having drinks with each other. And they're talking about how men and women are different. And they start talking about AD's body. And Clay says that he won't let her get out of shape. And he would tell her if she was getting out of shape. So she just spirals.
It was literally so funny, just the way that he put it. Oh, I think I rewound that one a couple of times too, just because the audacity. And it's crazy because AD obviously goes to the gym and she was just in the middle of telling him how she doesn't do pointless calories and how she works very hard and things like that. So obviously that's going to be on her mind as well. But she's also a woman and they plan to have children, and that child is going to grow inside of her body and make her body change just naturally. So I think she was looking in that moment for some reassurance that he's going to be okay with her when she's pregnant. A lot of men cheat when their wives and girlfriends and whoever are pregnant. It just happens. And it doesn't always have to do with they don't think that they're attractive enough, but I think she was just looking to make sure that he wasn't going to stray or leave if she ever looked a certain way, that he'd be patient with her about getting it back. And he's just like, oh, the way I say it to you, you're going to be motivated to get in there right away. I'll be right there with you. I was like, this man.
And then he even asks her, oh, was my delivery bad? And she's like, yes, it was bad. He's like, oh, word?
And only AD, I think she is a special type of woman in that she can tolerate a lot of this and she can have a response back to him that makes him open to hearing her instead of her just straight up yelling at him and being offended and disagreeing and them getting in an argument. She really was open to working with him about how he said what he said. So
Right.
I think AD is just a special kind of woman. I don't know if that is good or bad for her. I think it's probably both in different situations, but we'll see how it goes with Clay.
She says she's going to get him in some therapy, so
He
we will
needs some therapy. They both have daddy issues, and they talked a little bit about those daddy issues too. And all the best people in the world have daddy issues. Sometimes it just happens.
She was like, I just feel bad about walking up the aisle by myself. And he's like, what? Walking up the aisle by yourself? Marrying yourself? What? He was real confused.
He was never wrong when he said that he has a big ego. He's always putting himself in things where like she's just trying to open up about her life and what she's going through and how it's going to be hard for her to walk down the aisle alone. He's like, marry yourself. I'm going to be there. I'm like, sir, she knows.
But he does give her some solid advice about how her and her dad weren't as close. So maybe that spot should be filled by her brothers, who she is close with. And I think that was a good way to problem solve and also still stay sensitive to what she's talking about.
I totally agree. And I thought that it was really sad that she said that she wonders if she even deserves love because she's worked really hard for everything she has in life and she has everything she wants and she doesn't have love. So it makes her wonder if she deserves it. And I thought that that was so sad. And he was really compassionate about that. He was really nice. And he was like, what do you mean you don't deserve love? And I thought he was going to put himself into that whole thing too and make it about him. But he actually was really nice in that specific response. And I think that that was really needed from him. So I'm very proud of Clay that he could see past his own self in that 3-minute part of the conversation and just give her some good affirmation that she is worthy of being loved, because she totally is, obviously. Right before this date, we do also get a peek on Laura and Jeremy, and I thought that this was an important conversation to note because more things are going to go down later on with these two. She starts to get with the requests of him. And I thought that it was interesting because in the pods, she was so choked up about how the pros list was so big that she didn't even have any room left. And not only was there so many pros, but that the pros were so important that the small cons that she had would not outweigh major pros. And she also knew that he had a thing for weird Hawaiian shirts in the pods. But right away, she gets to trying to tell him how to dress and what to do and where he's going to go. And I
Mhm.
just found it a little controlling, that conversation. The Hawaiian shirt thing, that's a small thing. And you guys are in the Dominican Republic. This is the only time you should be allowing him to wear those Hawaiian shirts. And you should be gassing him up about them so that he can get it all out now, so that when
Right.
you guys go back to North or South Carolina or wherever you guys are, he's ready to put on his Henleys or whatever shirts and get back to normal.
Exactly.
I think that she was being a little bit controlling right off the bat. And I mean, they both told each other how they are, I guess. She said that she focuses and fixates on the things that she doesn't like. And he said that he wears Hawaiian shirts, and they still chose each other, but we're starting to see some friction.
Yep. And yeah, I just think they're a weird match anyways. But
They are
so we
weird.
jump over to Chelsea and Jimmy, who are out by the beach, and she's really nervous and insecure about being in her bathing suit around him. She's asking him about his type, which I'm like, why didn't you guys talk about this in the pods?
It's
I
really
don't know.
weird. Like, it seems like they talked about looks a little bit. It sounds like Chelsea didn't know anything about what Jimmy looks like, but it sounds like she talked about her looks a little, even though it might not have been everyone's idea of accurate. But
Well,
yeah,
she also always describes her type as basically Trevor, muscular. She liked the mullet, the whole nine. So,
she's gonna really, I think, be attracted to him when she sees him. I thought it was hilarious that Jimmy's like, so all your exes are like bunch of buff dudes, and she's like, yeah. Doesn't have a ton of muscle definition. Neither do I.
no,
I'm not judging. I just,
right.
he's not buff.
Yeah, so that's when he asks her if she would swipe right on him, and she says that he would be the first blonde. And I'm like, that wasn't a yes or a no. Like, I don't know if this is Netflix editing sometimes, but I get confused by some of these questions.
Well, and then
Yeah.
she asks him the same question, and right before he answers, she says no. She's doing this whole responding before he can answer thing again. She did
Mhm.
it last night when she was asking about his favorite features and things like that, and now she's doing it again, and it's starting to piss me off because this man is here actually telling you that he's very happy. Maybe you don't believe him, but you should just say that.
Right. Well, he does talk in circles for me too because he says things to her like, as long as she tells him she loves him, he's not going anywhere. Like, what does that mean? What do
The
you mean
same
by
man who just told Jessica 2 days ago that my love goes without saying. It's a given.
that? What's going on,
He
Jimmy?
is having a personal crisis internally. I feel like whenever the interviews come out with Jimmy, he's gonna be like, "I don't know. I blacked out the whole time I was there." Like, he is personally imploding.
I think he would have been fine with Chelsea and the whole thing, but I think her being insecure made it even worse. Feel
Jessica plants the bomb in his head
Mhm,
that Chelsea is detonating, and Chelsea
mhm,
planted like a little mini bomb in his head with the Megan Fox. It's just all of these things stacked up against this relationship. And I think if they didn't have all these weird influences, like nobody else has all these weird influences, because that's kind of what the show is about, like not having anyone else's influences or opinions or looks even mattering. And for some reason, all this stuff mattered to them from the jump before they even met each
mhm.
other. And so weird. This relationship is weird.
Yeah. This is when Chelsea discloses that she's been cheated on a lot before, so that's
Starting
also
to make
telling me.
sense.
Yep, it's telling me that she's got trust issues going in, so yep, then they take us to the cast party where at least this time there's a lot more people there,
A lot.
and we see all the views, and it's not some weird angle shot whatever.
I've really enjoyed this mixer, and I think it was just because last season was so boring when all the cast got together, and there was just
Mhm.
so much going on. Like there was two conversations happening simultaneously that they had to show us side by side. Like what a
Yeah.
thing.
So weird. It was a weird time to be alive. But the cast party starts off with Jimmy saying that he's excited to see AD, which I thought was really funny because of whatever happens later.
He said he's excited to see Clay. I think he has a man crush on Clay, and I
Probably.
think this gets edited a little strange, although all this obviously does happen.
Yep. So they're all showing up to the party, and something isn't clicking for Brittany to put together what Jimmy even looked like with his voice and stuff. She was shook.
I think a lot of the girls kind of had this image of as well because he was being fought over by these two girls so
Mhm.
furiously. So I think a lot of the girls thought that he looked a little more put together. Jimmy is just a very normal looking guy.
Yeah. Yep.
He's cute,
And
but
he's okay, but I'm not my cup of tea. But
yeah.
whatever. So the girls are already conjugating and being a little inappropriate, having conversations about touching areas
Girl,
and
Chelsea told the girls that this is all I gotta say, the width of a cup.
pretty much.
And then the way that they edited Jeremy and Jimmy when they were talking about their bits and pieces, they're all like, yeah. They like put in these clips of the dudes like, yeah. I'm
Oh
like,
my
what
god.
are y'all doing in that editing room?
I find the sex conversations kind of weird. Yeah, I'm sure that at a random party, we're all gonna walk up to each other like, "Have you guys had sex yet?"
I do
I get
think
it.
it's like a unique situation
I think it's
because
producer driven.
yes. I mean, you're engaged. I think Laura's fiance get all their names confused when they're all together.
Jeremy, Elon.
Jeremy, Elon. Uh-huh. I think he said it well. He feels really connected to this person at the end of the day, and he lays down, and the thing that feels natural is to, you know, hook up. But
Mhm.
then you also realize that you don't actually know this person and you really just met them. I think that that's a really good way to articulate what they're all feeling. So I think they're kind of also trying to just feel out like what is the normal thing to do in this situation. I don't think there is.
Yeah.
I mean, do what feels right, but
Yeah.
it does sound like nobody hooked up except for AD and Clay.
Who knows? I don't know, because Amy walked out on that conversation too before it happened. So
She
I
did.
don't know.
She did. And she did say in the morning check-in that the physical connection was an 11 out of 10.
Yeah, so I feel like it could
They are
happen.
smooth as butter, like smooth. We haven't even talked about them because there's just nothing to say. They show them, but they're just cute and funny and fun and
Mhm.
enjoying each other and don't have anything to say about them.
Yeah. I feel like all the conversations at this party were awkward, but
Yeah.
they skip right over to Jimmy talking to Chelsea and saying that AD looked stacked. It's like, "That woman, she's stacked."
That woman is absolutely stacked. I quoted it.
Amazing. And she's kind of going with it. She's like, "Oh, you can say whatever you want. She's a bookshelf."
She and she screamed over to her, "How do you get an ass like that?" And I was like, "Oh god. This is one of those people that when they're embarrassed, they put their foot in their mouth, but they don't just put their foot in their mouth, they do it loudly."
Yeah. She caused a whole little scene.
She
'Cause
did, but
then
you know what? AD responded so well to it all. She's just shaking her ass off. "I'm
she's shaking.
dead." I'm like, "Oh my god."
I feel like they were already pretty drunk at that point, but yeah, AD was fine. She did not care. In fact, it
No,
seemed
she was
like
not bothered.
Jimmy was burying himself deeper because he kept going up to her like, "I'm so embarrassed. I'm so impressed by you." And
I
then
think
Chelsea
this was the first time they ever spoke too. I got the vibe because when he kind of like introduced himself a little bit, all the things he said, like, "I'm impressed by you," and like talking about Clay and things like that. I get the vibe that, of course, they've seen each other and interacted at this mixer, but I don't think either one of them spoke like face to face, just the two of them. And
maybe in the
then all of a
pod.
sudden, it's all like, "Oh, she said you're stacked," and blah, blah, blah. I think he was just trying to really rein it in. In the midst of all of that, he completely forgot about his woman, who he just left in the dust I get that she just embarrassed the hell out of you, but she also just embarrassed the hell out of herself. So you just left her there to talk to AD.
And she's in earshot getting a drink, just like
I know.
hiding.
Hiding. I get the optics of it all. For Chelsea to feel like this is uncomfortable. I don't think that Jimmy said anything horrible or even really bad in the
Mhm.
conversation between him and AD. He did do the whole possibly veiled, "Are you really happy?" kind of question. I
Yeah,
think he
yeah.
was a little drunk. I think AD was giving him the eyes a little bit, but I think AD was really just feeling herself. I don't think she's interested in anyone else. I don't think she was
Yeah.
even entertaining that. I think she just knew this is a man who thinks I'm hot. I know I'm hot. I'm feeling myself. I'm gonna be who I am and talk the way I want to talk. I don't think she was reserving herself in any way. But to me, I don't think that conversation was flirty, but I think
Mhm,
Jimmy was not tuned in to what the hell was going on, and more importantly, to what his fiance was feeling, and that she
mhm.
just embarrassed herself more than anybody, and she probably would have
Right.
felt better with him by her side, not by AD's side, because the optics of it looked bad. Nobody else was thinking that, I don't think. Everyone else scattered, but that's how she felt, and I mean, that's how it looked.
Well, they went over to Chelsea, who was sitting on these lawn chairs talking about what had just happened. And I don't know,
Mhm,
her recollection from the previous minutes was just a little bit fuzzy. So obviously they had a few to drink, but
mhm.
it kind of escalates. Eventually he walks over there and he's just kinda like asking the same kind of question. Are you happy?
Yeah.
To these other people. And I'm like, why are you asking people if they're happy?
Again, that's always a weird veiled question on Love is Blind, especially in this mixer. That question during this mixer in the last 5 seasons has always stirred up problems with people who shouldn't be talking, and I don't
Mhm,
think Jimmy really had any bad intentions with this question. I think he genuinely wanted to know how people were doing in the experiment because he had such a hard time, but
mhm.
it just looked and sounded awful, and again,
He
he could
did.
not tune in to what he was actually saying and what it looked like, but I think he was just drunk and dumb and happy and thought he was just hopping around.
He
He's just
did.
he kinda reminds me of Tyler a little bit, like, he's just in his own world a little, especially when he's happy, and he just can't imagine that anyone would be, like, feeling anything different. It's like, "We're drinking on an island, and I have the love of my life. What's wrong?"
Yeah, right. So they do cut over to Kenneth and AD who are talking about their connections. They had Clay there for a second, but he kind of ran off. So it's just Kenneth and AD there. And they start talking about if Kenneth typically dates white girls, which he doesn't. And she also tells him to keep all of this stuff in mind because Brittany will be raising black children and he is confident in her ability to do that.
I thought that was a good conversation to air.
Hmm.
I can't speak for any of that, although I have been in interracial relationships. I mean, you're in a interracial marriage, but I thought it was good to describe the things that have to happen, the conversations that have to happen. Obviously, it didn't happen yet between Kenneth and Brittany, between the two of them, but I did really like that AD gave like a compassionate, permissive sort of voice to you can be pro black and date someone who's white
Hmm.
and be able to do both things. You're not like a raider, like you also still have responsibility towards your
Hmm.
culture. You can do both things, but it's going to be hard to do both things. And you should have a partner who is aware of what they're getting into. So I thought that that was a really awesome conversation just to have aired on television about interracial dating and marriage and couples. And it's not something to just brush past.
Right.
It does matter.
Well, it's normal to have concerns too, especially you got different traditions and things going on.
I do love that AD kind of ended it with telling Ken to let Brittany ride for him because I do think Brittany is the type of woman that will. I think you can allow in relationships like that to let women who are privileged to use their privilege and their voice in a way that can benefit Black culture
Mhm.
and Black people in general. And I think that that's what AD was saying is you do have a woman who has been benefited by privilege and she does have a loud voice and she doesn't mind using it and she will use it for you. So let her do that. I thought that that was cool.
That's cool, yeah. I think AD is very wise beyond her years, so I think
She
she
is. I just love her. I feel bad for her that the bad parts of me are so resonating with the bad parts of her and that like Clay is always thanking her for being so patient. Like she just deserves all of everything. She deserves a fully
Mhm.
potential man, and I'm not sure if Clay is fully potential.
So AD joins the guys' conversation. So this is like ping pong, basically. There's conversations here, one's over here. So she joins a guy's conversation with Jeremy, and Jeremy brings up some bean dip thing that Laura told him to do.
Oh, bean dip date. That's what we shall call it.
So apparently, this means to smack her bosom.
It's like a bop.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't getting that. So
I didn't come up with that. I just learned this for the first time watching this as well, but that's how they described it.
so I couldn't tell if Clay was annoyed by it or not for half of it. He seemed like he was annoyed by it, wasn't annoyed
I
by it. He was annoyed by Jeremy saying that Laura told him to do it to her.
I think he was annoyed at Laura. I don't think he was annoyed between the men. He kinda laughed a little bit about it
Mhm.
with them, but as soon as Laura came up and tried to defend that she would say that, I think he wasn't playing with that at all. Joke or not joke, I'm not happy with the person who would tell someone to do that. I think he didn't have a problem with Jeremy, of course, because Jeremy didn't do that, and he was just
Mhm.
joking about it. But I do think he was questioning Laura, which makes me feel bad a little bit because Laura and AD, I think, have been very close throughout the whole experience as far as the girls go. I know Laura was the most excited to see AD, and they end up having a little bit of friction between the two of them. Not a bad conversation, it was a mature conversation between AD and Laura when they sat down. But at this point, AD is riding for her man, and her man is mad at Laura. So AD's trying to maturely navigate the Laura thinks it's not a big deal, thinks everyone's making something out of nothing. And AD is saying, no, my man is upset about this, and I see why he is, but she's trying to not argue with Laura about it.
Mhm.
So I thought that she also handled that really maturely and really well for trying to be respectful of both positions. Um, I think that Laura came up with this joke all on her own. She does not deny this, and the joke went wrong, and she blamed Jeremy for it. And
Mhm.
I don't think that that is fair at all because Jeremy didn't do anything that she didn't tell him not to do. I mean, she told him to actually do it. It sounds like she didn't deny any of that. She just said that
Mhm.
it was a joke. But even just talking about it made people mad before it even happened, and
Mhm.
then she just threw it all on Jeremy, he fumbled the joke or something. Got the joke
Yeah.
exactly right. She wanted Jeremy to bean dip AD for some reason, and nobody thought it was funny. Now Jeremy's getting blamed. Poor
It's wild. And they have a couple of awkward conversations about it, her and Jeremy, but she calls Jeremy a child for doing this.
Yeah, she said it's giving child, and I thought it was giving child for her to say that, to be honest, because he didn't orchestrate any of this.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with it.
And I don't know if you noticed this, but I think production is now making a point to show us them eating because we've now seen them eat a couple times.
Yeah, and they'll
And
show off the food before they eat too.
yep, yep. And
Yeah.
I don't know if this is because of some allegations that have been made in the past about them not feeding them and just drowning them with alcohol.
You know what I did
So,
notice though is they were all fully and sufficiently slurring their words and drunk before they were offered any food, and it looks like it came right at the end of the night.
it's true. It did look like that because that's when I have it in here. Because literally the next thing after them eating, Jeremy and Laura are still arguing about whatever happened.
They argue while they're eating, and Laura says simply, but she says that we will have words later. She's like, I want to have words with you later. And he f***ing plumps back and he's like, I love that for me. He's like so done already. And then I don't know exactly what happens in the interaction following, but Jeremy gets up and says he wants to go home, and
Mhm.
Laura doesn't respond to him at all. She doesn't even blink an eye, and then he gets up and leaves.
Mhm. Yep, a lot of weird connections unfolding in the way that I pretty much expected them to.
We have one final argument between Jimmy and Chelsea because we can't get
Mhm.
enough of her insecure argumentation.
Yep. She goes
Um,
back to the room with Jimmy, and she starts getting upset because she was by herself a lot during the party.
what I can't get over about Chelsea is the passiveness. It's really starting to get on my nerves. She walked in and she immediately asked him what's wrong, even though something is really wrong with her. Just walk in and say that you're upset about something. He had to ask her back what's wrong, which again with this back and forth, what's wrong? What's wrong? Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm okay. Are you
Mhm.
okay? It's it's exhausting between the two of them. But finally, it comes out that she's upset about what happened with AD and she thought that he spun her around and whatever. And they did show like his hand touching her hand and she kind of, did a little twirl. But I again think AD was just feeling herself and spun herself around. I don't think Jeremy
Yeah.
was like, give me a whirl. Like, he was so embarrassed in that moment. I could not imagine him being like, yeah, girl, spin around.
Yeah. I didn't catch him doing that, so I wasn't sure.
They showed their hands touching in a way that she could have done a spin. I think he just kind of like touched her hand when he went to go walk up to her and she spun
Right.
herself. I don't think it was a great conversation. I don't think he should have been talking to AD for that long, especially when all that just went down. But I
Mhm.
think Chelsea really made almost all of this up in her head.
Yeah, she was doing this thing where she was crying, but not crying. Her eyes were just really red, looking at him like, "Don't you think I'm hurt by that?" And it was really weird. I've never seen that before. But she has this conversation with him in the bedroom. He seems a little bit confused. He tries to pull her in at the end and just try to be done with it and look her in the eye and say, "Listen, I love you and we will work this out." But she wants to keep repeating the same things over again. I don't know. She keeps saying that she's just hurt and he just needs to take it. And I do not know if this is Netflix editing, but I was like, what?
Yeah, I think she was trying to get him to just see that her feelings were hurt without him trying to explain away his actions. But I
Mhm.
think the problem was that her feelings were hurt because of something she made up in her head and not something that he actually did. So he
Mhm.
can't really take accountability for her feeling hurt. So, yeah, finally, she was able to articulate, don't you realize that these are all people that we dated? And I
Yeah.
don't think that he actually realized until that moment that maybe that's why her feelings were hurt because he did kind of stop and become a little more soft in his responses, a little more
Mhm.
apologetic. Again, he doesn't have anything to apologize for because he didn't do anything wrong. But I think he was starting to see her perspective in that she's just triggered right now. She's insecure. She came from a history of cheating relationships. And we just walked into 5 other people that we dated, and you asked them all if they were happy. And again, it doesn't look good. I think Jimmy is honestly so secure in the choice that he made, at least between Jessica and Chelsea, that those other women were not even an afterthought to him. Like they really
Right.
were just his friends that they were all hanging out with. And so I think she wasn't willing to accept that because she had already made up how he felt and what was going on. And she was like way too far out into the deep end emotionally to be able to rein all of that in. But
Mhm.
I think he actually did not understand that she was looking at that situation as, "Hey, we're hanging out with people we dated, and you're over here happy and flirty, and are you guys happy?" And it just
Yeah.
looks bad.
Right. I don't blame her for feeling away. It just was a weird time to be drunk and talking about it.
And
He
she
does.
was being unfair. He told her that
Right.
you're being unfair, and she was.
And then she says she loves him. It seems like she was trying to kind of end that for the night. And he says that he will always tell her that he loves her. And I'm like, what's up with these riddles, Jimmy? You keep saying this. You
I
don't
know.
say you love her. You're just going to say that you're always going to tell her that. What
Yeah.
does that mean to tell somebody
That's crazy.
And then they decide to show us this montage crazy preview of what's to come.
I wrote, Clay might not be ready. Laura and Jeremy are not doing great. He wants to meet Sarah Ann, and Ken acts different when they're at home, and they show a view of him, and he took his braids out, that's for sure. And he's on his cell phone, which I think is just, we're not used to seeing any of them on their cell phone, but he definitely looked disinterested in that conversation, whatever was going on.
Right.
It looks like Amy might want kids sooner than dude. Forgetting his name.
Johnny.
It looks like that might be probably like their only friction, really, though. Jeremy, it seems like, did meet Sarah probably at the mixer, and it sounds like they may have stayed up talking until 5 o'clock in the morning. Crazy. Everybody meets, so we're gonna see obviously Jessica meet Jimmy, which we'll all be waiting for on bated breath, including Jimmy. And then Chelsea screams to somebody, I'm assuming Jimmy, you hooked up with her. I'm assuming Jessica, but we'll all have to see about that one. Oh my god. And then Trevor and Chelsea talk. And it sounds like Chelsea tells Trevor that she loves him, and Trevor says, I know.
Oh my gosh. See, I think that this is the most anticipated second half of a Love is Blind season for me.
You guys, this season is lit. We
Compared
haven't
to
had a
last
season this good since maybe like
4. I feel like it was 1, 2 was okay, but 4 and that's it for me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did not care much for Barista season.
no, me
No.
neither. I do hope that if there really is a second chances season going on, that it wasn't filmed before this season and that Sarah Ann maybe gets to go on it because she's cool to watch in the pods and she likes it. But I don't know, maybe she'll be with what's his name because I think Laura's gonna have some problems.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I do think that was probably filmed around the same time because I don't know, some of their people that they're putting on the front face of it, like Marshall and stuff, like he's engaged to somebody else.
Right.
I don't know. I don't understand what's going on with that whole that series. I feel like it's gonna drop right after Love is Blind, so look out for that. That's it for episode 6, and we will catch you when they drop the next ones. We're waiting to.
So excited. Tell us how you guys feel so far about this season. What are your thoughts? Leave your comments. If you've been watching all of these, especially to the end, and you're not subscribed, that is crazy. You should do that.
Yeah. Until next time, Chick Chatters.
Bye.
Bye.